Brandon and I we met each other about a year and a half ago at a rally. We just happened to meet out of chance, and then we were both up in Washington, D.C. a year ago, September, and Brandon came up to me and he recognized me. I didn't recognize you right away. Basically what Brandon is a father who can't see his children as often as he would like to. And your children live only, what, a mile away from you?
A mile away.
We're going to talk just a little bit about the meeting we had with the Attorney General, Ken Paxton, last year, December the 6th, 2017. In October of 2017, I was at a GOP breakfast that Ken Paxton was speaking at, and it was in Rockwall, Texas, and I basically asked him, I said, there's a lot of parents in the state of Texas who are complaining about the issue of child support and how the practices of your office are abusive. Would you be willing to talk with these parents? To which he said yes. So as he was leaving the building then, I followed up with him and I said, well, Attorney General Paxton, how can they contact you? To which he said, well, Michelle, give him your card, have them contact Michelle Smith. So I did that, and that was a very interesting result because many people started to contact Michelle Smith evidently. When did they contact you? Do you remember exactly?
It was after you had posted your video to contact Michelle Smith.
Okay, okay.
And I did contact Michelle Smith, spoke to her. She was very nice, spoke to her for about an hour, and she agreed to set up a meeting. And I really didn't put much stock in that. And then, I don't know, a week later, Andrew Leone contacted me.
Yeah. But you were considered one of the leaders.
Yes.
And how was that? How did that happen? I know I was driving home one day and I had a telephone call and I listened to the message, and it was a message from the office of the Attorney General. Andrew Leone left a message to contact him, which kind of caught me completely out of surprise. I'm like, why is the Attorney General's office calling me? Is that kind of what happened with you?
Yeah, I really don't know. We've got other people in the movement who have been in this a lot longer than me, and I don't know. I really don't know why he chose to pick me, because they ended up, at first it was going to be an open meeting, and then at the last minute they whittled it down to about 25 people.
Yeah, there were a lot of people that wanted to go that were later on denied. Do you remember what happened with that?
We did get a lot of feedback. We posted it on our Americans for Parental Equality.
Mm-hmm.
We posted it on our Facebook page, and there was lots and lots of feedback, lots of people signing up wanting to go, and then they said that there was not going to be enough room. We ended up with a sufficiently sized room for the 25 people who were actually allowed to attend. The interesting thing about the meeting that we found out since then is that the Attorney General has to have so many meetings. Is it one meeting a year?
I'm not familiar with this as much, and again, because Brenda, this is never an issue that pertained to me. I just thought it was an issue of right and wrong, and from the stories that I heard from men and from women, the practices were abusive, and if this were a gang or a mafia group, we probably would be cracking down on them. But it was the Attorney General's office, so it seemed to be like it was okay because it had sponsorship from the highest levels of government. But anyway.
Absolutely, and where I'm leading with this is that up to, and so prior to, and then since going to the meeting, we have found out a whole lot of the driving force behind the actions of the Attorney General, which is what, 62%?
62% of his staff. And I was at the Tea Party meeting in February of 2017, I believe it was, that he was talking to these people, and he made the comment that his office employs 4,200 people. Over 2,600, 62% of them are involved in child support enforcement collection. So the first thing I had to wonder was, well, why is your office named the Office of the Attorney General when the majority of your people work in child support collection? Why don't you call yourself the Office of Child Support Collection? But anyway, that's a digression. 62% of his people work in child support collection.
And the interesting thing about child support enforcement is it's actually a federal franchise that is a single and separate unit embedded or housed within the office of the Attorney General. And as each of us that's been impacted with having our children taken from us in one form or another, be it a default divorce or CPS, whatever it may be, we kind of travel back. How did we get here? How did this happen? And then we stumbled across, then you're up against child support, and even men that have attained 50-50 custody with their kids, they're paying child support. And you're thinking, well, why is that? And you ask these questions, and it boils down to Title 40 incentives paid to the states to enforce collection of child support.
Right, and that meeting that I was at, that a video recorded him, he was bragging about how much money the state of Texas collects. I believe it's for 10 or 11 years right now. The state of Texas has outpaced every other state, #1 state in child support enforcement collection. And it's not just because of our size, but he talks about the efficiency. How for every dollar that's spent in child support collection, I believe he brings in $12.32 or 37 cents, something like that. Now, it's not to his office, which has been a misconception. I believe what he's saying is that he's bringing this money in that he's supposedly distributing to the people who the court has said will receive this money. But at the same time, the state of Texas profits financially from this whole thing. The way that the Title 40 funding works and everything, I believe, and I can't verify this number. I was going to ask the Attorney General to verify this number, but I believe it was $73 million that the state of Texas collected because of child support enforcement, and they could use that basically for anything as far as my understanding is concerned.
Well, there are different payments that the Attorney General receives, or the Child Support Agency receives, based on collections. Now, when you say collected, well, that's non-custodial parents are paying through his office that then is sent to the custodial. Yes.
Was it $1 billion or was it more than that? I forget the figure.
It was over $1 billion.
Yeah.
Now, all these numbers, they kind of take on a life of their own. But essentially, when you look at the child support manual, they are paid 66 cents on the dollar for the cost incurred. So there is a sleight of hand on all these dollars, because you've got the dollar collected from a non-custodial parent that goes into the coffer, which that is how, and that's the reason why a lot of parents will say, well, why can't I just pay the mother, which in 90% of the cases, per the Attorney General, the mother is the one receiving the child support. The reason it goes through the state is because it's tracked, and then that's how they justify to the federal Office of Child Support Enforcement what monies are owed, which is 66 cents on the dollar based on the cost. So the cost of the court, his people, and it spirals out. So it costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
Even if we take the Attorney General at his word, every dollar, for every dollar spent, 12 is collected.
In 2015, they collected $3.8 billion, I think. Last year, this past year, they collected $4.2 billion. You'll have to verify that number, but this is not $1 billion we're talking about. It's over $4 billion that they collected. And they are, and it says down here, Texas ranked first for the amount collected in child support. And you can find out some of this information if you go to the Attorney General's website. I'm sure he has it there. But the Texas Tribune and other magazines or newspapers report on this frequently. But this is what the Attorney General was talking about. How much money he was collecting and how he made a lot of money for the state of Texas at the same time. Now, to the group that he was speaking at, maybe it sounded good, but there were a number of us people that were there that said, wait a minute, what's happening in the state of Texas in the Texas family courts, or anti-family courts as I prefer to call them, and especially even in the Texas Family Code or the Texas Anti-Family Code, there are things that are done that basically we think are completely immoral, unjust, abusive, and end up criminalizing innocent people. But you know, the myth behind this meeting is that it's just a bunch of angry men. It's just a bunch of angry men that don't want to pay child support. And they should pay child support. They're almost deadbeat dads. But that was not the composition of the people that were there, was it?
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, and what I found interesting was that there were grandmothers there, there were mothers there, there were fathers there, there were people that were there to support somebody else who was there. This is not just a men's issue. We both picked out the people to testify. Of the 3 people that I chose, 2 of them were women. Maybe you can talk a little bit, if you want to, about some of the people or a little bit about the meeting itself.
Well, many of the people that were there were people that I've met after trying to go through a modification and having paid child support for years and years and never given it much of a thought.
Yeah.
We just trace it back to the source of why, when you go through a divorce or a modification, you're not given equal access to your kids. Because a common theme in American way of life is that you're innocent until proven guilty, and that you'll get justice if there's a crime committed or if you go through the court system.
Well, wait a minute. You'll get justice in the Texas family courts? Fallacy number 1.
It's a naive thought after you've been through it.
Yeah.
But the driver behind it, and this is an interesting thing going back to Andrew Leone. He said, we don't want any crackpots coming down here talking about Title 4D funds.
I kind of forgot about that part.
And I said, and that was one of the last conversations I had before going to Austin. And in that phone conversation, I said, if we're not going to talk about Title 4D, this is a worthless meeting. Because what we found, and I want to back up and I want to tie in a key issue concerning the Attorney General's website, is on his website, he has or did have a month or so ago, on the title page, we combat human trafficking and the sex trade. And then he goes into what human trafficking is, which is basically extorting people for their money and their labor and their resources.
Are you being human trafficked to your kids or what?
Absolutely, and so I thought it was very ironic, almost a year later now, and having continued to study and learn what is the system that's in place that is driving these things. And it's the Attorney General's office is human trafficking our children. That is what it boils down to.